Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Indie Developer Survival Guide. This is me. My name is Raúl Portales. That's my Twitter handle and my email in case you want to contact me later. And I've been surviving as an independent development on Android for almost 3 years now. During 2011, I quit my job here in the Netherlands and I founded the Pill Tree, which was a gaming studio together with a friend. We ran that company for a year, and then we have to close it because it was not sustainable. And then I founded Platisoft, which is my current company, which I am alone. I do Android consulting, I do projects for other people, I do freelancing, and of course I do my own apps. And this one seems to be doing quite well. So today I want to give you some insights of how I've been surviving in the independent development of Android for the past 3 years. Okay, so about this guide. I started writing this and my mind was on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because it's great. So it's this world of apps where everything is great and you need a guide that explains you everything, like the universe or the galaxy. And I started going deeper into it, and I ended up realizing that I was writing something more close to the zombie survival guide, where it's more about tips on how to survive a battlefield post-apocalyptic place. So, well, I really wanted to do the first one. I ended up doing more like the second one. It's up to you to judge which is closer. So the mobile environment. You're here at DroidCon, everybody knows that. It's an amazing graph of growing Android device activations, and the progression is exponential. It's probably, I'm not sure, but probably the fastest growing customer base ever. This is a dream, like, oh, come on, like, how many millions of people can I reach by making apps and putting them just in one place? Yeah? So it's a huge amount of potential customers, and the distribution channels are super simple. You upload something to Google Play, is available to millions of people all around the globe. And also the entry barrier is super low. You don't need almost anything. Any laptop with Eclipse can make an app for you, right? So it's like the dream of the independent development. It's the best place ever. So if you stay with me, this is going to be a little bit like all I'm offering is the truth. If you don't want to know the truth, please take the red pill. And if you stay with me, I'll show you what I think is happening in the mobile environment. So, no takers? Okay, you're still with me. The real environment is that this is the device activations, but this is the number of of apps in Google Play Store. It's also exponential. So you do your maths, you divide one by the other, we're good. We still have the same amount of people that's going to install each app, right? Wrong. Because what happens is that the top apps, the apps that are visible, they got millions and millions of installed. And the apps that are not visible, they got nothing. So this environment means more for the ones that are winning and less for the ones that are losing. And I call this the apocalypse. So we're living the apocalypse. You see it every day. Small studios that decide to go into business making mobile apps have to go bankrupt and retreat and do something else. It's really a very difficult situation because of the mobile problem. It's the lack of dedicated quality channels. You have Google Play, especially for Android, and Google Play really sucks in discoverability. If you ever try to market your own app, you will realize that. There are a few apps that are there, and the rest are almost non-existent. Search sucks, which is something really surprising coming from a company like Google. But it's true. Search on the App Store, on the Google Play Store, is really terrible. So it really hurts developers to not make their products easy to discover via the normal channel. And this is the normal reaction. I'll make my own app store. Yeah, back. I want vendor. I'll make my own app stores with blackjack and hookers. Actually, this is the feeling of many people. This app store sucks, I will make my own. Problem is, unless you have got enough customer base, your app store is completely irrelevant. How are you going to make your app store discoverable for users so they start using it? So far, the only ones that are kind of succeed on this are Amazon, but not that much. So if Amazon cannot make it, who can? It's really terrible. And another big difference is that apps are not games. They have many things in common. So they're programs that you install on your phone. They can be built by small teams. The process of building them is more or less the same, but there's where similarities end. From there on, apps and games are completely different. And this is one of the key things you have to keep in your mind. And also, surviving. We're talking about surviving. Surviving is really tough. This is the concept of ramen profitable. You should be surviving if your app makes enough money that allows you to eat every day. This is probably the cheapest food you can afford. And this is actually my kitchen when I was trying to survive with the money of one of my apps for a month. After a week, we actually gave up and start eating properly again. But bear with me, like, surviving is really tough. It's not meant for the soft of heart. Like. So if you really want to go there, survival tip number 0, you have to lower your expenses. When you decide to become an independent developer, from that point until you release your first app, you're going to have absolutely no income. So you're going to be running on your savings. And you know what? Savings run very quickly. So if you want to start doing this, first thing is try to spend as low money as you can. Because by doing so, you'll be able to keep running for longer. And once you publish your app, money is not going to come straight after that. So you have to run even longer on your savings. And when money comes, it's not going to come as much as you want. So this will allow you to run for longer time. This is really important. You have to try to spend as little money as you can. And we all heard these overnight success stories. They are great. This company that came out of nowhere and they made millions, they are actually not what they look like. All these companies that are so successful rarely is from one single app that they made. They usually have a record of many apps until some app hits the jackpot. Or it's a company that's been making all this stuff for a long time. So if you, for example, Candy Crush Saga, King.com. Oh, it's an overnight success. No, actually, it's like the 15th game. Robbie almost went bankrupt with Angry Birds until they hit the jackpot. So there's a lot of work on every overnight success that you hear. They come from a lot of work. It's not just out of pure luck, right? So this is how I see the mobile app games system. You start on the bottom, trying to make something that is fun if it is a game, or something that solves a problem if it is an app. When you've done that, you actually care that it works, that there are no crashes, there are no freezes, and it does what it has to do properly. Then you usually care that it's visually appealing, so the UI doesn't sag, the colors are okay, it's kind of nice. And then you worry about getting the users to know about it. That's how we developers approach the construction of apps and games. But you know how users see it on the other way around. They will install what they know about. Because what they don't know about, they won't install. And from the options they have to install, they will install the one that looks more visually appealing to them. Then, once that's installed, they will try it. If it works, if it doesn't crash or freeze, they will keep it. If not, they will go back and install the next visually appealing one. And once they have installed it and they keep it, they will realize that it's fun or solves a problem. So although I'm not saying you have to start building from top, you have to start building from bottom, you have to realize that customers come from the top of the pyramid. So another very important thing is you have to measure all the things. Like, you put your app out there, and you don't know what the users are doing with it, you're lost. You have to put analytics to see what the user trends are, what are they using your app for, how they are using it, for how long, how many of them return, which are the screens that they use the most. Because you may think that one specific feature is the most important one, and it's going to be the most used one. But it may turn to be the other way around, and you have to adapt. And if your customers want something, and they are using it the most, you should place it in a prominent position in your app. You should probably make it the first screenshot of your app as well. And if you don't measure stuff, you're lost, which happens to me at the very beginning before I realized that this was so important. So, a little bit on the battlefield of games on Google Play. I'm going to talk about this matrix, where we have freemium games and free-to-play games. They have single player and multiplayer. So these are some games I've made, all of them have been published for a long time. I'm going to show you some insights of each type on how it behaves and how it relates to monetization. So when we started the pill tree, our first objective was to figure out the market as soon as possible. So we wanted a very quick, fast game to be put there and see how it really was. And we made Salvo. Well, Salvo is a game when you draw with your finger lines of chalk where balls bounce, hit other balls. It's kind of, we reimagined Pong for touch devices. This game has several advantages. One is that it's single player. It's much, much easier to build. Also, we made it a premium game. So it's much easier to build and it's much simpler to monetize. Give them a trial version. If they like it, they buy the full game. End of the story. There's no complication on how should I monetize this game. You give a trial, when users are done with it, if they want more, they find the full version. End of the story. So Salvo. It took us 2 to 3 months of development. It's single player, it's freemium, and as of today it has 10,000 downloads of the paid version and 400,000 downloads of the free version. And the current user install graph goes like this. We released, and suddenly we got all that downloads. Well, because you're figuring, that is when Google featured Salvo. We put us on the first page, and during the month we were featured, we were getting so many installs, and then we went slowly going down. Pretty cool. Truth is, 90% of the downloads were well featured. So during all the other time, the game made almost no money. It was thanks of being featured that we got it. I called Salvo a success because it covered the survival costs. And it's also a failure because it didn't get enough traction. So yes, cover the survival costs, but if I were working for another company, the two of us, getting a proper salary from that company, for the time we were developing Salvo, we would have got more money. So to be able to at least get the same amount of money, because you know, we're here because we love it, we're here not for the money, we're for the fun of it, but I have to pay my rent at the end of the month, and I have to eat. And we all like to have a revenue stream more or less constant. So we figured that we may want to get more traction. How do we know that? Because in Easter, we released Graviton X, which was another version of Salvo. This was featured for 3 days. In 3 days, it got 90,000 downloads. I was like, wow, it really made a difference. When Salvo was featured, it was the paid version, the one that was featured. And by doing so, we realized that the free version didn't got so many downloads because people are lazy. Either they wanted to buy the full version or they didn't. And if they were interested in the game, they will buy it. And a small amount of people were interested enough in the game, but were so into spending money that took the time to scroll down and figure that it was a free version. See, like scrolling and tapping, 2 actions, too much for most of the people. Well, Rabbit NX was completely free, so it got 90,000 downloads in 1 day, and then of course it slowly decreased. And I think the second spike is when Chartwell was featured because it was like another game from the same company, and then it slowly goes down. So for our second game, we wanted to get more downloads and more traction, and the game we made was SpaceCat. SpaceCat is a game about cats on flying saucers. After working on it, we find it completely normal, but people still suck when they see it. I don't know. It's normal. And it's a mix between a platformer game and a lunar lander, right? So, we made it free to play because it's the lowest barrier to download. You see an ad of a game, you click on it, it's free, you download it. It costs money? Yeah. Maybe I download it, maybe save it for later, maybe never. But with this, we ensure that people will download it. And everybody tells you that it's better monetization. Any Google developer advocate will tell you, look at the top grossing charts. All the apps that are there are free to play with in-app purchases, not all of them, but 9 out of 10, or 18 out of the first 20 top grossing apps are free with in-app purchases. It's much better monetization. And we believe it. And we went there. So SpaceCat took between 4 and 6 months of development. 4 months for the first version, another month and a half for the update. It's still single player. It was free to play, and it got 1.5 million downloads. And it went like this. Got some downloads at the beginning, then it goes more or less flat, more or less flat, more or less flat for 6 months. And then it gets a peak. So, what happened? What made the game different after the peak than before the peak? Nothing. It was exactly the same game. But then, a game was featured by Google. And that is the effect. You may have a very good product. You may have a game with the potential to get 50,000 downloads per day. But if it's not put on the face of the people, you may very well get 50,000 downloads in 6 months, which is what we had. And then after the month of featuring, it slowly got down, but because of the huge amount of downloads, it still has some user base. So, fact. Less than 10,000 players bought the downloaded content. SpaceCat was free to play. The first block of levels were free. The second block of levels cost in-app currency, which you could get by buying in-app currency, playing the game, doing incentivated ads, or even cheating, right? So I'm not caring about how the people got the money to buy the downloadable content, but only 10,000 people got it. This is a disaster. Or out of 1.5 million people, 10,000 people bought the DLC. And the ARPU was under 1 cent. Figure. Actually, it was much lower than that. It's really terrible when you see that you have 1.5 million downloads and you're getting less than 1 cent per user. You get really desperate. So, a success. Of course. 1.5 million downloads, that's awesome. I love it. The failure is that it's absurdly low income. Like, really ridiculous. Why? That was one of my first questions. Why did this happen? It happened because one does not simply add in-app purchases. In-app purchases are not that easy. It's not like you got the game, you add in-app purchases, you release it, and it goes. All the games that are in the top grossing chart are games with low engagement cycle, with in-app purchases, with developed system which has a study on how and what to sell when to the users. And of course they are fun. So if you miss any of those key factors, you're not going to make it to the top charts. And it turns out we were not selling the right things in SpaceCat, and the engagement cycle, because it was a single-player game, was not so long. So we failed for 2 reasons. But please, remember, it's not just, I make a game, I will put in-app purchases, it will work. It won't work. Making in-app purchases properly takes as much effort as making a game fun. And as a matter of fact, we make more money with Salvo than with the SpaceCat. It's hard to believe, but it's true. About 3 times more. And that's also true. We got popular thanks to SpaceCat. People started talking back to us and asking if they want to feature our game or if they want some cooperation and they want to pre-install our game or whatever. Just a few months back, I went to give a similar talk to China, and some publisher told me, hey, you want to publish Salvo? I want to publish SpaceCat because I love it. Like, yes, thank you. You don't want to publish SpaceCat, you want to publish Salvo. And then I have a discussion with them, and they finally decided to publish Salvo instead. So it's a very good key point to get people to come to you, having a game with 1.5 million downloads. But it didn't really work, but this time we actually closed the company, decided we're not going to make it. In fact, SpaceCat was featured 2 months after the company was closed. It was quite annoying, but I went on my own, and there was something I wanted to do. There was a game I wanted to make that we didn't have the chance to make with the pill tree. So for the next game, I wanted to make the game I wanted to make. And this game is Codemon. This is a game where you go around with your phone scanning barcodes, and each barcode you scan generates a creature or an aura or a spell, and then with these creatures you battle other people, and it's very Pokemon-like, but in the other way around. It's also very similar to the old game in the 90s. Some of you may remember the old ones, Barcode Battler. Yeah, I was very inspired by that, but I wanted to make it for today's phones. So, Codemon needs to be a multiplayer game. Otherwise, it's not fun. And it turns out any game that's multiplayer has better word of mouth, because you want to play with your friends, and you can actually battle your friends and beat your friends. And then you install your game, and you like it, and you go to your friends and install this game, I want to beat you up. And it has a lot longer engagement, because you see other people coming. And yeah. Usually multiplayer games have lower engagement cycles. It all depends on the game. But. So, Codemon. Took me 8 months of development. I published the first version after 4 or 5 months. It's an asynchronous multiplayer game. It's a free-to-play game because it didn't make sense to make it otherwise. And it got 7 people involved because I was the only person in this company, and I didn't have a graphic designer with me all the time. I hired 2 character designers, 1 UI designer, 2 people to do translation, another person to do the sounds and the music, and I think that's it. Now it's over 50,000 downloads, and it's been never featured by Google, and I guess it will never be. So how does the current user install graph look for Codemon? So it starts, some blogs note it, then you get a spike in downloads, then another blog writes another review, you get another spike, then another blog, you get another spike, then it goes ups and downs, but yeah, more or less keeps in the same range. Mind you, this graph is almost exactly the same as the graph for SpaceCat before it was featured. The problem is with the SpaceCat, with a huge spike, all these details disappear. But this is how it looks for a game that is not featured and it just relies on organic growth and some blog reviews. So, personally, I call it a success. I got great user retention. I got people playing for a year and a half so far. I got people playing from the first month of the game when it was released, and they are still playing today. And they're not my friends. It's people I don't know. My friends are also playing. And some of them have actually logged in 2 months in a row Actually, one of them was proudly sharing on Facebook that he finally made the mark of 100 days in a row. So the only failure of this game is that it doesn't get enough downloads. 50,000 downloads are nothing. You cannot support any free-to-play game with 50,000 downloads. And there's another big problem I want you to be aware of. Cheaters. You think, I have 50,000 downloads, you got about 100 installs per day, 500 daily users, no one finds this game, who the hell is gonna cheat? They will. And while people can cheat on single-player games, it's not that bad. But when you have a virtual economy on a multiplayer game, and some people cheat and generate virtual money out of nowhere, then your full virtual economy gets disrupted. And it took me 2 months to sanitize the virtual economy after I figured out some people were cheating. I have to put measurements on there. And I wish I would have done it before. So please, don't be naive. Don't think because almost no one is finding my game, no one will try to cheat. Some people that will find it will try to cheat. And they will try amazingly crazy things. Some of them will regret it when you ban them. I will tell, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, you tried to make fake enough purchases. Oh, yes, I did, but can you unban me? I promise I will not do it again. Really? So, what is very interesting is that the ARPU of Codemon is way bigger than the ARPU of SpaceCat. To the point of this Friday, Codemon has made more money from in-app purchases than SpaceCat. Yes, a game with 50,000 downloads have made more money with in-app purchases than a game with 1.5 million downloads. Because for Codemon, I already knew that I have to design them properly. And the game is actually very good fit for virtual currency where you can buy more currency to speed up your development during the game. So that were my learnings on games. And this is what I told to the people in China when I went to the Game Developer Conference. But what I didn't tell them is this, that 4 years ago, I was really starting on Android, and I was feeling that I needed one app, and none of the few apps that were there were actually a good fit for what I needed. And then I made it because I needed it. This app is MTG Tracker, and used to be a really big Magic the Gathering player. Many of you should know the game, I guess. Well, it's a card game where you play a wizard and you defeat other people, and you summon your creatures and your enchantments and your artifacts, and you launch fireballs and that stuff. It's a pretty cool game, but you usually take pen and paper to write down the scores and to give statistics of your matches. And maybe if you're trying to become a pro player, you want to keep stats of how well your deck is performing against other decks, and so on. So I built this for me. What happens is that this was an app, it's not a game. And the advantage of being an app is that users search for it. Your organic growth is amazing. Because you have a problem, you think, maybe there will be an app that solves this problem. And you will search for it, and you will find it, and you will install it, and you will like it. And because it's a problem you have, you're going to keep having this problem for longer. And this app will help you solve this problem as long as you have it. So as long as you play Magic, you're going to keep using this app. And because in this case it is a social game, you have to play with other people. There's a word of mouth implicit on, oh, which app are you using? Oh, this one is very nice, it does this and that. And then the other person uses it, and it's very nice. I actually went to a tournament a couple of years ago. I saw a guy take the phone, launch my app, and I look at the app, surprise. It was, I think, one of the few times I played against someone I didn't know that was using my app. And he tells me, oh, this is a really good app, it does this and that and that and that. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm using it too. I was like, so I tell him I'm the developer? But I was so proud of my work. It's one of the best moments in my whole career as an IT development, when someone comes, uses your app, and tells you how great it is without knowing that you've made it. So, MTG Tracker started as a pet project, then it evolved. I kept adding features every now and then. It's over 4 years old now, and I think I put more than 4 months of development into it. It started during weekends and afternoons, and when I had my own company, I was able to put some days, full days into it. And it started as a free app, because it was a pet project, but it moved into freemium. It worked quite well. And it's actually over 30,000 downloads, both of them, the free version and the paid version, which is amazing. So this is the current user installs of MTG Tracker for as long as Google Play takes you back. Did you notice a big difference between this and the games? This is continuously growing. And you may think it's because of the nature of this app. No. I have other apps that solve problems for other people, like jugglers. And they have exactly the same graph. The only problem is that the amount of downloads is smaller, but the graph is the same. So when you have an app that solves a problem, you can expect this growth. And this is sustainable. This is not like a game. A game has a spike, and you can't forget about it. An app that solves a problem is sustainable. So this is, for me, my best success. Every month it pays my rent. That's something none of my other apps do. And the failure is that it's based on a third-party product. Magic the Gathering is a game from a company called Wizards of the Coast. And in January 2012, they decided to take an action on all the apps that were out there that were using their intellectual property, and they took down the most downloaded ones. For some reason, they forgot my paid version. Then they released their own app, trying to make a lot of money out of it. After 1 month and less than 2.5 stars in average review, they removed it from the market. And they stopped bothering us, so I republished the free version. But still, when you're building something that is based on the intellectual property of another person, you're always at risk that they decide, this is my property, you cannot use it. And you can fight back if you think you're doing fair use of it, but you will need a lawyer. So that's really the failure of this game. So coming back to the apps versus games debate, MTG Tracker makes more money per day than any of the P3 games nowadays in a month. That's it. So games that have been featured, they've been forgotten. This app has never been featured, but it's been slowly growing. Now it makes more money in a day than any of these games in a month. So, well, I think I'm doing okay with the time. Going to go for the last recap of tips. Hoping that will help. So, survival tip number 1 is to make what you want to make. So you have to scratch your own itch. This is very important. On the moment you decide to start building something, there are going to be moments where it's really tough to keep going. The only way your mind can support it is because you really want to make what you're making. If you're making something because you think it will make money, but you're not really passionate about it, at that moment, you're going to think, I'll quit. I'm not doing this anymore. And there's also another advantage, is that you know all the domain. You have all the domain knowledge of the problem you're trying to solve, because you are your target audience. If you were a bigger company, you could afford to go into some other domain, learn it, and fix their problems. But because this is for independent development, the best thing you can do is to solve your own problems, because you will know a lot about them, and you will be able to eat your own dog food, and that is great. And because in the moments of desperation, knowing that what you're doing is what you want to make is what will keep you going. Try to do small projects and see early. SpaceCat was too big. It took us 4.5 months to actually ship the first version, to realize that the monetization was not being good, and then come back. MTG Tracker was a project I did in 2 afternoons. And then I published it. And then I kept improving it. And then because I have analytics on it, I saw what people was doing with it, so I improved the areas where they were working. And then I started getting user feedback that was asking you for more stuff. Some of them were crazy, but some stuff was being asked every now and then. So I implemented it, and then boom, all of a sudden, a lot of people started giving reviews of 5 stars. Yes, that's the feature I was missing. So when you ship early and listen to the feedback of your users, you can update quickly and you can update properly. What else? Do not underestimate marketing. This is really important. We're developers, we think we build a great product, we put it out there, and we think the downloads will come. They won't. The Play Store is a terribly competitive environment. You have to make your product discoverable by all means you can. And that's where building a relationship with blog editors is a great idea. I actually talked with the people of Android World, .nl, and with the people of another Spanish blog, which are very popular. The first time they do a review for you, it takes a while. But once they've written an article about one of your apps or one of your games, you can come back to them and you can tell them, hey, look, I'm going to build this, I can give you this beta, and then they're very happy to get something exclusive in advance. And usually they come back to you. So the first contact is the hardest, but once you've done it, you just can keep going to them, and they will reply properly. It's better to have a few blogs where you have a good relationship with than to send a press release to 50 of them. For the first time, it could be a good idea to send a press release to 50 of them and then work with the ones that reply to you. So, this is absolutely counterintuitive for what everybody else is saying. Go for premium. Do not do free to play. Do not do freemium. Go premium. Unless you have a very good reason not to do it. Why? So if you make a game and some user finds it, the effort of finding the game is being made in advance. The extra effort to decide to pay for it is very small. Maybe you can drop 1/3 of your users, but each one of them will pay the full price. So all in all, you'll make more money. This is even better for apps. If you have an app that solves a problem, people will buy it. Actually, you can try to double the price a couple of times and see if you see a decrease in the number of downloads. You probably won't. And very good reason not to, because you're going to make a game that really needs to be free because it needs a lot of users, or because there is competition to your app and you want to release a free version that does some stuff to eat your competition. Maybe, but most of the time you want to go premium. And measure everything. You have to know what goes in, what people do with your games, what people do with your apps, to be able to adapt to what they need. And finally, don't make games. Seriously, don't make games. It's a terrible business. Unless you're really passionate about it, it's the worst business you can make on mobile nowadays. There's so much competition, the attention lifespan is so small, the discoverability is so bad, the user acquisition cost is growing. Really, don't make games. That's essentially it. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know
your free version of the tracker app.
Yeah.
Do you have ads or something like that, or is it completely free to start? No ads, no something?
So I don't know if you heard, she asked if my free version of the Magic app has ads or is completely free. Yes, it actually has ads. It's one of the motivators for people to buy the full version, to get rid of the annoying apps. And it's also very good because recently, blog editors about Magic have contacted me that they want to be advertising my app. And I said, okay, it's fine. Instead of charging you, why don't you write a review of my app in your blog instead? And that's sort of advertising that they think is for free, but it's also beneficial for me. So it's actually been handy to have ads. Yep.
you follow number 7 of your tips? Of your, are you not developing any games anymore?
I'm still developing Codemon a little bit, but nowadays I spend part-time working for third parties as a freelance, which is what pays my rent easily. And yeah, actually the latest apps I've made are actually apps, not games.
Question.
Yep.
Do you do native Android development or do you use JavaScript?
I do only Android native development.
You mentioned using analytics. Which analytics do you use?
Right now I use Google Analytics because Flurry SDK is so big that I find it like if my Magic app is 2 megabytes and I put Flurry, it's going to be 3, and people are going to not install it. But Google Analytics works just fine. Yep.
Analyzing your graphs, I didn't saw too many spikes. Did you launch some updates during that period, or just launch the game already made and just a minor feature?
It depends on the game. He asked if I did some updates of the game and if that had any impact on the graphs. For SpaceCat and Chalvo, we try to release a minimum viable game. So only if the game worked, we will continue working on it. So the updates were done after it was featured. Actually, for SpaceCat, we released a minimum viable game with almost no monetization, and 2 months after that, we released the second world because we wanted to get it out as soon as possible. For Codemon, it's been more like an iterative process because I was on my own and I wanted to get it out as soon as possible, get the feedback and evolve over it. So Codemon, yes, had several updates, some of them important, and I managed to get some attention from the players to get the spikes of usage back.
So you think it's good having updates during the...
Yes, of course it's good. Especially for apps, it's much easier to make updates that provide functionality. For games, it's a little bit harder because the game should be already playable, and making updates should not break it. So, does it still work? So for Codemon, I was lucky that I was able to keep doing updates because the concept of the game allowed it. That yes, if you can, definitely go for the minimum thing you can deliver, and then do updates based on what people ask you.
Have you detected a pattern on which kind of apps are the ones that get featured, or how it happens?
Well, first thing is featuring by Google Play is not what it used to be, because like a year ago it was a full screen with the graphics, and now it's like recommended for you stuff. So featuring is not that important anymore. For a while they were featuring seasonal apps. That's why we made Rabbit and Eggs. It was a gamble. It worked. We did the same gamble on Christmas, in Halloween, but it didn't work. So it was very random. I talked with some Google developer advocates about it and said, yeah, well, have an editorial team. They pick some stuff that goes in the charts app that we think can be interesting for everybody, but nothing really clear about it. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you very much.